Good
Good.
morning, good afternoon, good evening
Yeah.
to everybody who is present. Welcome all from the Atlas Alliance to this Inclusion Network event. Inclusion Network is a network wherein we share knowledge, best practices, key insights on the theme of disability inclusion. And we have panelists who come from different parts of the globe to share their perspectives so that we could have inclusive development aid. The theme of today's network meeting is Disability Rights Policy in Action, how to change legal and policy landscape. So before we take a deep dive into that theme and listen to what our eclectic panelists talk about from Zambia to Nepal, from Pakistan to Norway, a little bit about housekeeping. We have this event which is being recorded. This event is facilitated by international sign language interpreters so that deaf individuals can follow the proceedings of the event. Also, we have live captioning option, which is present. In addition, we would request all participants or panelists to keep their camera turned off and ensure that their audio devices are turned off when they're not speaking. Only the panelists are supposed to speak when they are asked to speak. And in the end of all their presentations, you as participants will get a chance to ask questions. So please ensure that you think about those questions, jot them down, and ask them to the panelists when their presentations are over. So the structure of the event is something to this effect. At first, I will talk a little bit about the theme, Disability Rights Advocacy in Action, why it's important to undertake disability rights advocacy to ensure that we could change the legal and policy landscape in different countries and to promote disability inclusion. Thereafter, I'll hand over the floor to our first panelist from Zambia. After that, we'll have a presentation from a panelist from Nepal. Thereafter, we'll move to Pakistan and a presentation from there. And finally, we'll round off the individual presentations with a presentation from Norway. And at the end of these presentations, we'll get a chance to then ask questions and engage in a discussion with the panelists, providing that the time allows that to happen. Also, a brief note about myself, giving an audio description, visual description. I am 36 years old. I'm almost blind. I have long, dark, curly hair. I'm wearing a gray shirt with black jumper and black jacket and with the Atlas Alliance logo behind me. And I'm based in Oslo. So now to the event. As I mentioned some moments ago, the theme of this event is disability rights advocacy. And advocacy can take place in multiple forms. We could have contentious means of undertaking disability rights advocacy, like undertaking strikes and lockouts. Or we could have peaceful means of undertaking advocacy, wherein we go to the courts, file a petition, ask the government to change their laws and policies. And why is advocacy so important? Because at one point, we all want to ensure that persons with disabilities are treated with equal human dignity and their human rights are not trampled upon. So it's extremely crucial that disability rights advocacy is undertaken by individuals who are disabled, who are in the driver's seat, and the representative organizations. So it has to be a grassroots effort to ensure that the policies and laws at the local level, regional level, and country level alters so that disability inclusion moves from becoming mere good intentions and eventually leads to good outcomes. Good outcomes might include having schools which are inclusive, so promotion of inclusive education. Good outcomes might include having labor markets which are inclusive, wherein individuals with disabilities could participate on an equal basis like other participants who don't have a disability. And good outcomes might include that individuals with disability are able to live freely in the community, live independently with the adequate amount of support and assistive devices, which helps them to function. So for this outcomes to realize, disability rights advocacy is must. And one of the key pivotal point of within the disability rights advocacy movement has been the UNCRPD, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. When it was signed and ratified in mid-2000s, it changed the landscape drastically. At present, this convention has been signed and ratified by more than 180 countries. It's the only convention of 21st century which has dealt a huge, huge impact in the disability space. It has reminded all of us that disability is part of human condition and persons with disabilities are part of human diversity. And all persons with disabilities have human rights and rights to flourish. And the other important movement which happened in the past few years has been the Sustainability Development Goals, which have reiterated that persons with disabilities have to be incorporated into inclusive development agenda. So these two, coupled with the Global Disability Summit, which created an important avenue and a space to undertake rights advocacy work, have pushed the needle towards disability inclusion. Now, I would like to invite our first panelist from Zambia, Wawa. Mr. Wamundila is Executive Director of Disability Rights Watch and has worked for many, many years when it comes to undertaking strategic litigation and ensuring that laws in Zambia become more inclusive. So, Mr. Wawa, the floor is yours. Mr. Wawa, can you hear us? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you very much. I didn't realize it muted me.
Yeah.
So as Gaga said, my name is Wamundila Waliuya. I'm based in Lusaka. Okay, let me see. Although if I start my video, it disturbs the speech. Can I go on without the video?
Yes, please. Make sure that your voice is audible. That's the most important thing. If we cannot have the video, we completely understand that digital divide is real and many countries don't have access to good, stable internet. So please, thank you.
Yes. So I've been involved in a lot of advocacy around law and policy reforms. And the organization I'm working for, Disability Rights Watch, is specializing in ensuring that we use the UNCRPD to reform laws and policies in Zambia. And we have taken the strategic advocacy approach, which includes strategic litigation, so that since Zambia is a common law country, when a judgment is passed, that judgment adds to the portfolio of laws. It becomes part of the case law. That's why we use strategic litigation. So let me talk about a few issues which we have done. The first thing which we always do is law scoping, legal scoping. We review different laws to check how compliant these laws are when it comes to the UNCRPD, which Zambia ratified in 2010. And then after ratification in 2012, the government domesticated through enacting the Persons with Disabilities Act, which almost mirrors the UN CRPD. So we review different laws, and then we compare each of the articles or sections in the law to the principles of the CRPD, to the text of the CRPD. And then when we write a report, we do go further to do policy briefs. A policy brief is a position paper which will summarize what we have found in the laws, and then you will give the impact of the laws on persons' abilities if they are not reformed, the negative impact of certain laws. For example, we had laws which had derogative terms, like the Mental Disorders Act. We did some scoping. This law was a lot of derogative terms against persons with psychosocial disabilities. It had terms like imbecile, moron, idiots, defective minds. And then it allowed the enforcement forces, the police, to detain persons with mental disabilities or psychosocial disabilities if they are found roaming according to them. And then they could just detain them and then put them in detention places for almost forever. And then when we did such a policy brief, we engaged government through lobbying. We engaged the law drafters. We engaged members of parliament so that we could have certain laws to change. When it failed to work, we firstly, when I was still with the Zambia Federation of Disability Organizations, we sued the Electoral Commission of Zambia for being discriminatory in practice, for not allowing persons with disabilities easy access to the ballot, easy access to the polling stations, and then easy access to electoral information, especially for people who are deaf. A judgment was passed, and then in 2011, the judgment said the government, the Electoral Commission of Zambia was discriminatory in practice, and then orders were made that all polling stations should be put on the ground floor of any building, and then any entrance to a polling station should be wide, and then any entrance to a polling station should not have stairs, but should have a permanent ramp or a temporary ramp, where, because Electoral Commission of Zambia doesn't have buildings. And then the other order was that all ballots should be accessible to people with visual impairments, so those who are blind, by using a ballot jacket, which allows the person with a visual impairment to vote independently. And then the other order was that the Electoral Commission of Zambia be putting a separate budget for accessibility during elections. So we started using this judgment to ensure that the old Electoral Act was amended. So the Electoral Act was amended, even the Code of Conduct, to ensure that all information is accessible to every person with a disability, and that all polling stations should be accessible to persons with disabilities. Right now, the current elections are almost 60% accessible to persons with disabilities, and those with visual impairment use ballot jackets. And then we went further to sue to have the courts nullify the 1949 Mental Disorders Act, which was derogative. The court ordered that the system should review the old Mental Disorders Act. This was done. We started using the judgment for advocacy. We trained the drafters on how to draft a mental health law, which is compliant with the CRPD. So we have got the new law now, which is the, just excuse me, where is this phone now? Which is the Mental Health Act, which we have now. It is almost compliant with the CRPD, but not totally compliant, because this new law carries the principles of the CRPD on inclusion, community-based mental health services, and it has got proper terminologies when it comes to persons with disabilities. And then it gives, but still takes away the legal capacity. It says every person has got legal capacity when it comes to their own life, and then decision-making when they're accessing mental health services, and it provides also for assisted and supported decision-making. But there's a clause which says if a person has been determined that they do not have legal capacity, then they are legally disqualified from participating in any public affair. So we've gone back to court. We want this section 4 to be nullified again. So we're just waiting for a judgment. And we do this through policy briefs. Right now, we are doing a policy brief to ensure that we have a judgment on inclusive education, especially for children with intellectual disabilities. We are doing the legal scoping and then putting up a paper which our lawyers will look at, and then we do a constitutional petition. Apart from strategic litigation, we have been doing a lot of advocacy so that the government ensures that the Persons with Disabilities Act is actualized by issuing regulations or statutory instruments which will allow persons with disability access free, inclusive education at all levels. Because in Zambia, an act cannot be actualized unless there are regulations or statutory instruments. We did some advocacy and a petition to the president that the government ratifies the CRPD. After that petition, they quickly ratified. And then we started a lot of advocacy against strategic advocacy that the government submits its initial state report. And then after they submitted, we did an alternative report. The purpose of this alternative report mainly was to look at a lot of laws on each of the articles. When we look at an article which deals with education, we look at the Education Act, and then we ask the committee on the CRPD to ask the government through the list of issues which they issued, when the government is going to change the Education Act to ensure that inclusive education is actualized. When we come to article on health, we pose a question again, the committee, to ask the government when the mental health law is going to be actualized and when it is going to be amended to remove derogative terms, which for each of the articles, we identify those laws which address that and then ask questions. So the list of issues has been issued to government, and it asks a lot of questions on when government is going to make a lot of its laws compliant to the CRPD. After the list of issues again, we get the list of issues, we do a policy brief, which we use for publicity with members of parliament, with other civil society organizations, with a lot of the organizations of persons with disabilities, with the UN system in Zambia, so that the government can be compelled from all corners of decision-making to ensure that it responds to the CRPD when it comes to the list of issues which were given to the government. And we ensure that youth, women, and those who need more intensive support, like persons with mental disabilities, persons with albinism, those with autism, persons with intellectual disability, all come together to do strategic advocacy as a group, as a team, so that no one issue is left out. Briefly, that's what I can say.
Thank you so much, Wawa, for this thought-provoking intervention. And strategic litigation is an important tool in our toolkit when we have to realize disability inclusion, and when we have to, and it's a means to an end. The end is disability inclusion, and the means is strategic litigation. And I was quite impressed by the fact that you mentioned that governments should be compelled from different directions, because often in many countries, the governments, they commit. For instance, we see often in the Global Disability Summit, the governments have committed more than 1,400 commitments, but then they have to be compelled, coerced, nudged to ensure that these commitments eventually get actualized, as you mentioned. You use the word actualized often as well. So thank you so much for that intervention from Zambia. Now from Zambia, we will take a digital flight and go to the beautiful country of Nepal. And there we have with us today, Mr. Jan Bahadur Limbu. Mr. Limbu is an executive director of the Nepal Association of the Blind and has been a veteran of the disability rights movement for more than 2 decades, and has closely observed the influence of UNCRPD and the disability rights advocacy work in Nepal, and how that has changed the landscape on legal and policy front. So Mr. Limbu, the floor is yours.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Limbu, we can hear you.
Okay,
Please
okay.
proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gagan, giving me for this opportunity to share my experience about Nepal. I'm Narabahadur Limbu, Director of Nepal Association of the Blind, working for 24 years in this organization in different positions: president, director, executive director, likewise. The Nepal Association of the Blind was established in 1993. Then, after we have started the disability rights movement in Nepal, we have, after our registration, we have established the National Disability Federation in Nepal. That's why we are the first movement creators in Nepal for the disability rights movement. Now we have spent up to now 30 years. Within 30 years, we are leading with taking collaboration with other national OPDs and other NFDNs. So whatever we have done up to now, that is, we have applied nothing about us without us. Whatever we have done, we did with our involvement. That's why the disability movement, disability rights movement in Nepal is quite, we proud to say it's quite strong in Nepal. It's due to Atlas Alliance, NABP, Norwegian Association of the Blind and Partially Sighted People. We are working with NABP from 1998. It's quite long. It's already been 24 years. We are working together with NABP. Before working with NABP, we are very small organization. We can say we are in small bag. But right now, due to Atlas Alliance, NORAD, and NABP, Nepal Association of the Blind is one of the very sustainable and strong organization, DPO OPD's organization in Nepal. This is the small background. Because I'm become from the teaching profession. I have started teaching profession to work for the blind, but right now I am director of Nepal Association of the Blind. In my period, in my 24 years period, we did very hard advocacy, very influential advocacy with the Nepal government. The disability movement was very welfare-based before our existence. When we existed, then we start, it should be in right-based approach. Within 30 years, we have done, we should say, many things. For example, before our existence, there was no any scholarship for the people with disabilities. There was no job reservation for the persons with disabilities. There was no any distribution pension, distribution, car distribution policies and pension as well. Then there was no any political rights, cultural rights, other sports rights in the country. Whatever, and there was no any policies and plan for the persons with blind and other types of persons with disabilities. So we gather all our OPDs, we convince them we should be together. Only solidarity and unity will bring the results for the movement. That's we did advocate, first of all, to our friends. Then when they convince, then we start to work with the blind, to convince the blind government. That's why the starting point of movement of rights of persons with disability, we have started, we have influenced, and we have bring them, all stakeholders, in this point. So within this 30 years period, we convinced to the government. Government also apprised our movement. First of all, in beginning time, it was very difficult, but slowly and gradually, they understood our problem and they convinced. So first of all, we are able to classify the disability person in 10 categories. That one is blind and partially sighted people. Then another is physical disabilities, hearing disabilities, and mentally intellectual disabilities. Before it was mentally disabilities. The terms was that, but right now we are using the terminology that is intellectual disabilities and deafblind and autism and hemophilia and other social psychology disabilities and multiple disabilities. These 10 categories we have included in the classification and definition of the disability in terms of Nepalese laws and provisions. So these are the 10 categories. out of them, we have decided in 4 categories, the disabilities part in terms of the severity. Severity is the main things for the disabilities. That was profound disabilities, severe disabilities, moderate disabilities, and mild disabilities. The facilities are also, we have able to allocate it according to their severity. The profound disabilities, they will get a red card, and severe disabilities will get blue card, and moderate disability will get yellow card, and mild disability will get, that is, white card. Likewise, we have distributed, now we are distributing 4 types of card: red, blue, yellow, and white. It is up to their severities. The facilities are also different. The red card holder will get 4,000 Nepalese rupees as a pension. Blue card will get 2,130 rupees as a pension right now. And white and yellow card holder disability will get other types of facility. For example, transportation facilities, 50% transportation facilities, and other tax exemption. If they will bring some import the things for accessibility devices, they will get the tax exemption. These are we have maintained up to now. And recently, we did advocacy with the government. The total blind, those who are in no conception in light, that is a total blind, that should be also recognized as a profound disability. The facility should be provided them as a profound disability, where we did advocacy and government has agreed, and right now the process is going on. Very soon, the total blind, those who have not light perception itself, they will get the quite more facilities, because they have to, if they want to go somewhere, they need their assistance. They have to pay for some things for their assistance as well. And in Nepal, the blind and partially sighted people, the number of blind and partially sighted people is 94,765, according to the census of 2011. The number is very high. The very few blind and partially sighted people are getting some facility, training, and whatever. The many more people who are living in far-flung of area, because Nepal is very much ups and down country. You see, Nepal, the whole total areas of Nepal is 100,057 and 181 square kilometers. It is divided in Himalayans, which is a mountaineering areas. In mountain areas, only tourists can go. And the hilly regions is also very much difficult geographically. Then plain area is quite, plain and urban area is quite easy area. The parents, that if their children become blind and partial people, they are compelled to immigrate in the plain area or urban area. It is very difficult things. So now we are advocating those who are they can't, some parents, they can't afford to immigrate in plain area, in urban area. They are compelled to leave their own area. So for that person, the facilities should be increased to make easy survive to them. So we have done this advocacy. Government has recognized. Very soon it will be implemented. Now I'm talking about the constitution, our political system. Before, Nepal was a monarchism system. That times there was no power decentralization. And in many political movement, first of all, political democracy was restarted again. Before, it was very difficult position. That was familiar. Politics was around here, and after that, monarchism started. Power of monarchism was started. After that, then in that situation also, people fight against with that system as well. And in 2090, we restarted the again democracy position in Nepal. Then in 15 years before, our country was converted into federal. Right now we are in federal system. Country is divided in seven provinces, and 753 municipal governments and 1 federal government. How many we have governments right now? 763 government we have. Every government has their own part. The federal government will share the budget, allocate the budget, and they are entitled to decide the budget wherever they want to allocate. So the Nepal Association of the Blind also converted our organization, changed our organization system. Now we are federal, provincial, and local. The local, we are establishing local organization also for the blind, and local provincial organization for the blind, and federal organization of the blind. Now I'm working with the federal organization of the blind as a director. These are the new things. So we are influencing them. You have to work. We have to be strong. You have to register your organization, and you have to grab the resource from your own government. That is our policy and system. This change we have brought. But another thing is constitutional change. The federal constitution was made in 2015. In 2015, when it was coming, the process was going on. That time we have done many big demonstration, advocacy, lobbying, delegation we have done many things. As a result, the political parties realized that the disability peoples also need to be endorsed in the political rights. There are many more fundamental rights in our constitution. The disability person was addressed in 18 fundamental rights. Actually, the fundamental rights are in 43. The base things is social justice. In that article, persons with disability was not included. Then we did very high advocacy, then they included. When we included in social justice rights, many fundamental rights, we grab it automatically. Political rights, equality rights, and one very exclusive things we achieve, that is the blind and deaf people are entitled to get education through Braille and sign language. That is very much new things for the world in our constitution. And in constitution article in 84, there is proportional participation in the parliament. In that article also, there is spoken the persons with disabilities must be also candidates of the proportional representatives in the parliament. That is written. In Article 86, there is written in upper house, there should be at least one person with disabilities. It should be more as well, but at least one. Then there is mention. Then we have able to establish the Commission of Inclusion. In that Inclusion Commission, the disability people and persons with disability is one of the most important part. These things we are able to mention in our constitution, but one thing is again remain to do, that is the candidates, we are able to be candidates in the constitution for the parliament, but there is no reservation, special reservation for the persons with disability. That's why we are fighting with the government again. We are very much hopeful. It is depend up to the census of the country. The census report 2011, the number of the percent of the persons with disability is 1.94. We are below 2%. What made the political parties? We will take only from 2%. That's why we are quite behind to get the seat in parliament. That is the problem. But the new census has been already carried out in 2021. The result is coming. The new result will come very much blessing things or smiling things. So this year also, this election is going to be held in November. This time we will get very few, but in next election after 5 years, we'll get more and more things.
Thank you,
The
Mr.
another
Limbo.
thing,
Mr.
we
Limbo,
have already ratified the CRPD, UN
Mr. Limbo,
CRPD. Yes.
I think for lack of time, thank you so
Okay,
much for
I
your.
am concluding. I'm concluding.
Yeah,
That
wonderful.
we
Thank you.
have already ratified the CRPD, and we are implementing also. We have participated ninth session in Geneva from Nepal. We presented the shadow report as well against the government. Whatever they presented, we also presented the shadow report in Geneva. The another thing is a 5% job reservation we have already achieved. All these things we have done by our own effort, and the government is also very much interested to take our support or some recommendation. They are interested, so we are very much happy. Right now, one thing is remaining: the Marrakesh Treaty. We have been trying for many years to approve the Marrakesh Treaty from the Parliament. It has not been approved yet due to political irregularity. The Parliament will dissolve time to time, and when we brought it in Parliament, the Parliament will dissolve. The system is the ordinance which are in Parliament, that if Parliament will dissolve, that will go in from the bottom. Then we have to again start. This time also it has been in bottom. Then when the new Parliament comes after the November, then we'll again start, and we'll in next year we'll able to approve the Marrakesh Treaty from the Nepal. Thank you very much, my dear friends, from the Nepal Station of the Blind, and giving me opportunity to this expression to make expression to our friends. Amongst our friends, I would like to thank to Alliance and Mr. Gagan. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thank you so much, Mr. Limbo, for that comprehensive presentation. You covered so much ground and talked about demonstration, talked about the fact that how you and your organization and the strong disability rights movement has been able to make amendments in the Constitution and bring about the paradigm shift from the welfare understanding to a rights-based approach understanding on the issues linked to disability. And also one of the important thing which you mentioned is that we've got to have political representation as well, because social justice requires us to, of course, undertake redistribution of resources, but from redistribution, we have to move towards proper legal recognition, and this could only be realized through proper political representation. So thank you so much for underscoring those aspects. Now, from the beautiful country of Nepal, we will move a little westwards in Asia. And I would like to invite the next speaker, Ms. Zaida Qureshi. Zaida has been a force of nature and has done phenomenal work when it comes to the persons with disabilities. She's worked within the UN Women's System as well as the World Health Organization processes, and is currently the CEO and founder of Special People's Association from Pakistan. Zaida, the floor is yours.
Hello.
Hi, Zaida.
Hello. I feel honored to express my feelings in this influence network meeting of the Atlas Alliance. Hello.
Zaida, we are not able to hear you clearly. Please, could you come a little closer to the microphone and speak a little louder?
Yeah. Can you hear me? My voice is clear?
Yes, now it's a lot better. It was a bit muffled before. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Today, I feel honored to express my feelings in this Influent Network meeting of the Atlas Alliance. I'm extremely grateful to team of Atlas Alliance who have very kindly allowed me to express my feelings and sharing about disability rights advocacy in actions. And first of all, I will introduce myself. I am Zaida Hamid, and uh, I have completed my master's degree in economics from Bahauddin Zikri University, Multan. In regular education system, I have been serving Society for Special Persons from the last 15 years. Society for Special Persons has been working as a disabled people organization from the last 15 years through accessible and inclusive programs for the empowerment of persons with disabilities at equal level. Through our advocacy campaigns, the first and most important achievement which we gained is that Society for Special Persons launched in 2013 the campaign for the legislation uh, regarding the rights of persons with disabilities. We contacted the parliamentarian and motivated them for the purpose. In this regard, we have also take support through the judiciary, media, and civil society. We are pleased and pay thanks to the National Assembly of Pakistan. They have passed ICT rights of persons with disabilities in 2020. Along this, we have filled our constitution petitions before the Honorable Chief Supreme Court of Pakistan in December 2013 for the enforcement of the rights of persons with disabilities in accordance with the UNCRPD and the constitutions of Pakistan. The following issues were raised in the petition: education and employment for persons with disabilities, accessibility, accessible buildings and public transport, accessibility of informations and media, availability of statistics and provision of voting rights of persons with disabilities. Through these all advocacy campaigns, we proudly claim that now we have the in provincial level Disability Act in Balochistan Disability Bill 2017 has passed. Since Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities Act 2018 has passed out, and now the Punjab is some disability bill in process, going to adopt the government of Punjab for the rights of persons with disabilities. As Person with Disabilities Organization, Society for Special Persons launched the campaign with the name of Accessible Pakistan. These efforts influenced the policy directly on one of its products was in Pakistan, the Metro Bus is accessible, Speedo Bus is accessible, becoming an accessible conveyance for persons with disabilities. And one more achievement is that State Bank of Pakistan is issued the policy circular for accessible infrastructure in banking sector and inclusive growth policy adopted as a result of our advocacy campaign in Pakistan. And in accessible infrastructure, we have got a lot of achievement with the government support. We are working with the government of Pakistan, and government is contributing all our initiative, and they notified and they issued the policy circular for the empowerment of persons with disabilities regarding the accessible infrastructure in union council level, in provincial level, in district level. Each level of government has tried to build a infrastructure for persons with disabilities. This is the government of Pakistan plan to make accessible Pakistan for all people with disabilities. This is the result of our advocacy campaign, and we are very thankful for our government. They are supporting on every step of life for us. And one of another achievement of our organization and our disability movement has been in the empowerment of the person with disability is that customized wheelchair. We have to depend the import wheelchair, and they are importing in very limited form. So we need a lot of assistive devices for the empowerment of persons with disabilities, and we took the initiative of customized and appropriate wheelchairs in our country, while keeping in view one of the most needed requirement of persons with disabilities. Society for Special Persons was to introduce customized wheelchairs with the concept of made in Pakistan for persons with disabilities according to their need, disability, age, and gender in Pakistan. So it promoted the concept of colorful wheelchairs for women with disabilities. We have consulted with the management of Pakistan Baitul Mal. We consulted with Social Welfare Department Punjab for the manufacturing and provision of customized wheelchair to people with disabilities. Society for Special Persons has been encouraged by Pakistan Baitul Mal and Social Welfare Department also. And in this regard, the concept of customized wheelchair was launched in the President House in Pakistan. So the government of Pakistan has introduced the apps for the provision of customized wheelchair to people with disabilities with a very comprehensive form which can be easily person with disability fills and put the form to the government, and government will provide the wheelchair on their doorstep. And through this, the assistive devices is very frequently manufactured and delivered to people with disabilities in Pakistan with the support of government. And we have another initiative and achievement in the field of people with disabilities livelihood. For the empowerment and financial independence of people with disabilities to provide skills development training, we have been running vocation centers to provide skills-based courses to people with disabilities to strengthen their livelihood. The highlights of these efforts are that the trainings in these programs are being certified in the history of first time in Pakistan through Punjab Board of Technical Education. A certification of visual manufacturing and repairing has also introduced in skills-based programs for people with disabilities. NAPTAC, National Vocational Training Commission, has revised their policy. Now they are fully focused on people with disabilities, empowerment and mainstreaming. One of our achievement is that in the field of people with disabilities is that Society for has launched the self-help group of women with disabilities, so that women with disabilities mostly belong to the grassroots level in rural areas. So with the support of, with the technical support, with the moral support, and with the full support of World Health Organization, we have made the self-help group of women with disabilities in each district level for Pakistan, and these women with disabilities are working with as a self-help group, and they put their technical input with the government policy, district level, national level, and provincial level. We connect these all women with disabilities to social welfare department and district administration. So this is a very good initiative of women with regarding the women with disabilities empowerment, and these women with disabilities are now working as independent life with in their groups and in their districts. And these are initiatives Society for Special Persons has taken from the last 15 years, and we are very thankful to all our government institutions and organizations and media. They all support us. They all encourage our initiatives for the empowerment of people with disabilities, especially in vote casting. The all voting polling stations are going to accessible to people with disabilities, and inclusive education program is promoted in Pakistan. Special education program is also contributing in the life of people with disabilities, and along this we have the program of disaster management. Government of Pakistan has a National Disaster Management Authority is highly encourage and support the people with disabilities work, and in rescue the people with disabilities in their priorities. They built the form for the rehabilitations and rescue of people with disabilities in disaster. Currently in flood affected areas, government has specially rescued the people with disabilities, and our organization go there and visit and monitor the problems of people with disabilities, and we will connect these people with disabilities to government of Pakistan. And now we are providing the camp and commode wheelchairs to women with disabilities, and especially the mentally challenged people with disabilities are living very stressful condition, and we are going to rescue with these mentally challenged people with disabilities with the support of government of Pakistan. And now our organizations, our disabled people organization, we collaborate, we working each other and support each other, and we government with the support of government, we all contributing the people with disabilities life and strengthening their life in the field of education, in the field of livelihood there, to provide we strengthen them through provision of customized assistive devices, and visually impaired person with disabilities day celebrations, and we provide the travel discount card to people with disabilities, so that they can move and they can manage their life more independent way and more strengthened way. So these are the initiatives which has taken our organizations, and we have distributed almost 300 wheelchairs in 2022 years to people with disabilities for their independent life. And 250 children with disabilities are going, we are educate from the last 3 years, home-based educations programs, and over CRPs go to their homes and educate them and empower them, and connect them to the hospitals and inclusive education programs. So we are very lucky one. Okay, government of Pakistan is mostly supportive and caring the people with disabilities in all aspect of life. They are developed, they are launch more and more center for their skill development, their livelihood, their education, their employment, their disability certificate, and their CNIC. Each and every planning of Pakistan is going to strengthen and to people with disabilities. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Saida, for this important presentation and underscoring the fact that we have to also look at the intersectional nature when we talk about disability or persons with disabilities. You mentioned about women with disabilities and rural women with disabilities and their self-help groups. And that's how the rights advocacy work has to be conducted. It has to be bottom up, it has to be from the grassroots, and it has to be led by the individuals who come from different walks of life and have different intersectional identities. So thank you so much for mentioning that, and the fact that you accentuated the Accessible Pakistan campaign, which has moved the needle towards greater accessibility, greater autonomy, and independence in Pakistan is also very, very crucial. So thank you for that. And now from Asia, we will pivot towards northwestern periphery of Europe, Norway. We will have our next panelist, Morten Eriksen. He's a colleague at the Atlas Alliance. He is the policy advisor and has been a veteran in this field of disability rights movement. Morten, the floor is yours. Thank you.
We cannot hear you.
Morten, we still cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, it's clearer now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for the contributions from several countries in the world, from partners and also new partners we don't know. I think we need to focus and share experience on our advocacy work from different situations and contexts. And of course, I speak from the Atlas Alliance. We do not have a national mandate to implement the CRPD in a Norwegian context, except from 2 of the paragraphs, and that is paragraph 32 and paragraph 11. 32 is about international cooperation and development aid, and paragraph 11 is about humanitarian assistance. And as you, of course, understand, and as you, of course, also work for, we want both the Norwegian society to be inclusive and based on equal rights. But then we also want the international development aid to be inclusive and based on equal rights. The CRPD is strong on that point. So is the Sustainable Development Goals. That is clear on leaving no one behind. So what can I share from a Norwegian perspective? Yes, I can share that we, for the last, I would say, 10 to 12 years, has systematically worked on what we call facts-based advocacy. Because many of our politicians and many of the persons in the administration dealing with international aid and humanitarian assistance, they say, oh yes, we follow up on CRPD. We are inclusive. We, at least we do our best. We do our best, and we would like to have dialogue, etc., etc. But we don't agree. And it's difficult to go to the parliament to say we don't agree. They are not doing a good enough job. So we started from 2012 with using, I'm holding up here, a NORAD document actually, an analysis of how inclusive is the Norwegian development assistance. In 2012, it was documented that the support to inclusive development had been downgoing from the year of 2000 until 2010. And we then started using this document. We started picking up the main issues from this document. And if I'm clever now to share screen, I will show you a table that is actually our main table that we have used for 10 years in every meeting in the parliament, every meeting with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in every meeting in NORAD, when we discuss equal rights and we discuss inclusion. We say that, sorry, we hear what you say, but look here. Can you see now a table? Okay,
Yeah.
my colleague Lykke is saying yes. And when we take up this table, because we know that these numbers, they are correct. They come from our ministry. We point to the year 2010, and we say, look here, the mainstream disability efforts, according with Article 32, is just above 0.5%. It should be 100%. And then you see from 2013, there is a jump in inclusive development assistance, up to above 2.5, almost 3%. But that's almost nothing. It should be 100%, we say. 97% of the Norwegian development support is not being inclusive. Is it then not exclusive? Is it not then discriminatory? Those words, they are not always the smartest to use, but at least we say, this is not good enough. This is actually not what you want. And if you look at the lower line, it's about how much of the assistance is principal, targeted persons with disabilities, and DPOs, disabled persons organizations. It's has been less than 0.5% until 2019. With the Global Disability Summit, things have started changing. We also use this table when we try to push Norway to host the Global Disability Summit. We said it will assist us all to lift this politically as well as in the administration. So this is the main tool for us in Norway. It's this simple, but it's also this difficult to have faith in, trust in, that the numbers are very hard to beat in the parliament, in the ministry, in Norad. The other thing I would mention to you is that in the Atlas Alliance and the cooperating organizations, we have made 7 points about what we want to achieve. We call it a political or policy platform. And then full inclusion, as you see on this table, is the number 1. And then we talk about some other issues, targeted interventions, humanitarian intervention, etc. But the important thing is that we have a policy plan, policy platform that helps us be consistent. We cannot win everything, but we can go step by step. And we know that number 1 job is making 100% of the Norwegian development aid inclusive by 2025. I think, and I say also, if you pressure me, is that possible? Probably not, but we cannot aim at anything less. And when we cooperate like we do in coalitions with DPOs and NGOs together, we have the same message, we have the same numbers, then we are quite a strong force in influencing the Norwegian development work. So this is the main message from my point of view, from us, from our experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Morten, for reminding us that the significance of data-driven advocacy or fact-oriented advocacy, because intentions can be molded, it can be changed or altered, but facts are pretty hard to beat, or data is very hard to deny. So, and the same point was actually mentioned also by Mr. Limbu, who talked about the figures when he said that if you want to talk about proportional representation in the parliament, right now in Nepal, there are approximately 1.94% of the people with disabilities are there, according to the older census, which is less than 2%, which is not the right figure. And when this figure becomes more accurate, then the rights-based advocacy work could be done more strongly, and representation could be achieved of the issues in the parliament and outside the parliament. Thank you for that. We have one small request for an intervention from Somalia Disability Network. Please keep your intervention small or short because we are running out of time, and so that we could ask more questions to the panelists. So I would like to invite the individual from Somalia Disability Network to come forward and ask the question or make an intervention, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for all of you. My name is Abdullah Hussein Usman. I'm chairperson for the Somali Disability Network. Somali DBO's work campaign 1993, the CRDB campaign was started 2010, and Abilis Foundation supported Institute of Education for Disabled People, CRDB ratification advocacy 2012. Somali federal government promised in 2012 New Deal in London. The DBOs met with the Parliament 2013 in House of People. DBOs met Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs Disability Policy. DBOs met Ministry of Women and Human Rights 2016 and promised ratification of CRBD and establish of Disability Act. The Ministry of Women and Human Rights launched a campaign to establish Action 2017. DBOs met the Prime Minister Hassan Ali Gaire and request establish the Disability Act, ratify CRBD and policy national campaign. The DBOs met the Parliament in 2018 and passed National Disability Agency Bill. The DBOs met also former President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo 2018, and the TOFI program was launched in 2020. Somali Disability Network also established 2020 and member 15 DBOs with different kinds of disabilities, like youth with disabilities, women with disabilities, deaf disabilities, and blind people, and also physical challenge to supported for the TOFI program. SDN organization campaign CRBD outreach to from 100 persons with the member of the DBOs with the SDN 2022, and started also Brelemic Games 2020. The challenges for the people with disabilities in Somalia: lack of national census or statistics in the disability, lack of policy and strategic plan for the development, lack of partnership and funds for the DBOs, lack of participation donors work to the disability inclusion. Thank you very much for your listening. And I think.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdullah, and I really appreciate and commend the efforts made by the DPOs and OPDs in Somalia to open doors and engage with the political participants and change the landscape out there. And you underscored the significance of Together for Inclusion TOFI consortium, which is very important. Morton in his presentation also mentioned about the interlinkages between the DPOs and the NGOs. So I would like to invite all those who are following this meeting or are participating in this event to check out the Atlas Alliance webpage and check out the reports which have come out for Together for Inclusion, because that's a consortium wherein DPOs are in the lead and they are promoting inclusion and ensuring that human rights advocacy efforts takes place from the bottom up. So very, very crucial. Thank you. I would like to just have a brief intervention from Wawa as well as Saida. You both mentioned about accessible voting and being represented in the parliament. So would you like to talk a little bit about why participating in democratic process is so significant in Zambia first, and then we go to Pakistan? Wawa, can you hear me? While we wait for Wawa to join, perhaps Saida, do you want to take up that question concerning electoral reforms?
No, I'm here.
Yes, Mr. Wawa. Oh, fantastic. I'll be able to hear you. Could you please
Okay.
talk a little bit about the electoral reforms and why
Yes.
political representation matters? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Political participation is very, very crucial. And what we are doing now, we are part of the network which does election monitoring and election observancy. So in monitoring the electoral process, we check how accessible the polling stations are. And then we also check the participation of persons with disabilities when they get to the polling stations. In fact, we begin the monitoring from the time there is electoral education. When you're doing adverts on television, how do people with visual impairment get access to such information? And then when you're doing adverts, how do persons who are deaf get electoral information? So we do the monitoring of the number of persons with disabilities who have voted. We also monitor number of persons with disabilities who are participating. For example, who have been appointed to stand for elections in parliament and then at the municipality level. And then we put these figures together and then give them to the Ministry of Justice and the Electoral Commission of Zambia, so that we mark a percentage, so that that percentage will be used to advocate for more accessible participation. Like in the last elections, we had elections last year in 2021. We had at least 14 persons with disabilities who attempted to stand for elections. And then we've got a lot of them who are now sitting in the municipalities, and one is sitting in parliament. Right now, we have formed what is called the Parliamentary Disability Caucus, which has been approved by the Speaker. We will have members of parliament, including those with disabilities, sitting and ensuring that members of parliament with disabilities are adopted by their political parties. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Wawa, for underscoring this aspect about Parliamentary Disability Caucus, because if we want to change laws, if we want to influence policies, we have to be inside the parliament or inside the chambers where the power resides, be it at the municipal level, regional level, state level, or national level. Very, very crucial to have that kind of engagement. A brief word from Zaida.
Yeah. Yes. In Pakistan, in elections, during elections, the government of Pakistan are very careful to the vote of people with disabilities, and they try their best. The election polling booth is fully accessible for people with disabilities. The government of Pakistan has district level committees on voter education committee, and people with disabilities are the part of this committee, and I'm also the part of this committee. And we suggest the accessible environment for people with disabilities, hearing impaired, visual impaired, and physical impairment, and especially women with disabilities. And they enrolled our suggestions in their elections reforms. And through this, mostly people with disabilities now are attempt their vote in through in the election process. And government are going to more focus the and try to ensure the vote of people with disabilities through electoral process is in biometrics. Through biometrics, they received their vote in voting systems. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zaida, for your intervention. So now we would like to wrap up this session, this event today. We heard about the UNCRPD. We also heard about the Nothing About Us Without Us, which is an important banner, sustainability development goals, leaving no one behind. Very crucial. These two are fundamental pillars for inclusive development aid sector, but also inclusive societies. And to realize these two, we have to undertake disability rights advocacy, and it has to come through the grassroots. It has to be through legal means, going to courts, fighting in court battles through legal petitions and influencing the policies, as well as it has to be through other means wherein we build partnerships. We ensure that if we have to go out for demonstration and in solidarity, we do that. And through that, we change the public sentiment and ensure that the political processes become more cognizant of the concerns of persons with disabilities, and disability inclusion gets realized. So thank you, everybody who participated. Many thanks to the panelists, Wawa, Mr. Limbo, Zaida, Morton, for your insightful contribution. We really appreciate that we covered three representatives from three continents from different corners of the globe. Very crucial to have these dialogues, as well as many thanks to all the participants who listened to and engaged with. Special thanks to the representative from the Somalia Disability Network who made an intervention, spontaneous intervention. It's very crucial. Much gratitude to all the sign language interpreters and live captioners who are assisting with this event to be more inclusive. And we will have the Inclusion Network events in the upcoming months as well. So please check out our website and follow us on Facebook, as well as I invited earlier, check out Together for Inclusion Consortium and the reports which have come out of it. There's a lot of food for thought in those. So goodbye. Thank you from Oslo. Looking forward to engage with you in future. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay.